Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I'm honored to be here. That's a very nice. I want to be commissioner of the NFL, not president, but I appreciate him thinking about me that way. First of all, thanks, Mauro, for the introduction. We did serve. Not only did we serve in the house together in Florida, we actually sat next to each other on the floor. And the one thing I'll always remember about Mario Diaz-Balart, on every key issue that facing the Florida House, the leadership would ask him to speak because he's a very good orator, and he always. And the funny part about it is that he basically had no notes. And in essence, gave the same speech for every bill in a very compelling way. He's really a great public servant and is doing a great job here, following in the footsteps of his family's long tradition of public service. What I wanted to do today is kind of cut to the chase, because the truth is, I'm not that far removed from where you're sitting in terms of where I come from. I just turned 40, but it wasn't that long ago that I was trying to figure out how I could get involved in the process in some way, and didn't always have a clear path. Getting to the U.S. Senate was not part of some master plan, or a lot of it just opportunities that present themselves. There's an old saying that luck is when opportunity meets preparation. I would say to you that you live in the nation of opportunity, that you will have multiple opportunities in your life to do things in public service and in the private sector. And the question is, are you prepared for those moments when they arrive? And of course, the cornerstone of that is education. And I know people preach that down your throat all the time, but the reality of it is that all of you are well educated and continue to be well educated. That's not going to change. You do have an obligation, though, as role models and examples, to make people understand, and everyone, I mean people, your family, neighbors, and everyone understand that in the 21st century in this country, and increasingly around the world, there aren't going to be very many jobs for people that are not educated. That doesn't mean a 4-year college degree or a PhD, but some marketable skill. If you don't have advanced education, there's not that many jobs left, and they're dwindling every single day. And that's a very clear point that you need to make to people that you know and that you influence, because you already are influencing people by the examples of your life and in what you're doing. But 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when I was looking to get involved in public service, my real chance to begin doing it was as an intern. Not through a program like this. Literally, I just picked up the phone. And back then, there just wasn't that many programs available. So I picked up the phone and I called the office of my member of Congress, which was Ileana Ros-Lehtinen. And I asked if there were any congressional interns in the Miami office. And they really didn't even have a formal intern program. She had been in Congress for a couple of years. But I went there and I worked in the office, and from it picked up valuable things. The first thing, I created are relationships with people that I still know to this day. And that internship, is 20 some odd years ago, is today still evident in everything that I do. I mean, I learned the nuts and bolts of a congressional office. This was like in 1991, and when you still didn't have internet or some of the other methods that we have available to us. But I learned that in the political process, what you see on TV and all the glamour associated with politics, 99% of what you do is answering letters and answering phone calls. I say that to the interns in my office all the time. This is the backbone of the office. I mean, this is what we do on a daily basis. The stuff you see on TV is just the 1% that's fun. All the other stuff is the backbone of the office, so I learned that. The second thing I learned is relationships. And the one thing I've learned, valuable lesson I picked up, people used to tell me this all the time, and now I see it come to fruition, is that relationships are everything. The people you're interacting with in this very conference, but in your daily interactions, are people primarily you're going to be dealing with for the next 20, 30, 40 years. In essence, you will run into each other over and over again in different circles. And in the future, people sitting in this, there's a future U.S. Senator sitting here, next to a future Speaker of the House, next to a future CEO of a Fortune 500, next to a future president of a major network, next to a future Supreme Court justice. You will be seeing these people for the rest of your life and interacting in multiple different ways, in ways you cannot even begin to predict you'll be interacting with them. So the networking aspect of it and the relationships you make are incredibly important as well. The other thing I would tell you is you have a lot to offer. The background that we share is an extremely powerful one. And on this point, let me make this caveat. And I say this with respect, not to the people who say it and through understanding, but oftentimes when people talk about me or the other members of Congress, they accentuate that somehow our background as children born to people who immigrated to this country as Hispanic, Latino Americans provides a check-the-box opportunity. Oh, this is great, and they fill in the blank. And that is true, but I think they missed the point as to why it matters. The truth is, every single one of us stands on our own. Irrespective of our background and our heritage, as Americans, as individuals, we are qualified to contribute to this process irrespective of our ethnic background. Every single one of you has the talent and ability, irrespective of your ethnic background, that qualifies you to be a significant player in the field that you're leading. So it wouldn't matter where your parents came from or whether your last name ended in a vowel or not. You are talented just on your own merit, irrespective of that. Where your background comes into play is two things. Number one, it shows that the American dream is powerful, and that it is so powerful that it assimilates people into it so rapidly that within one generation, or maybe even yourselves arriving in this country, you're fully immersed in all the opportunities this country has to offer. So first of all, it just is a testament to the greatness of this nation. The second thing is that for most of us, our upbringing is something this country desperately needs to hear about. Being an American has never been a common ethnicity, a common race. It's never been a common religion. It really separates us from the rest of the world. Being an American has never been what the color of your skin is or how your last name is pronounced. America is largely a collection of people from all over the world who couldn't be who God meant them to be where they were born. And so they came here. We are a collection of go-getters. And every single American is the descendant of a go-getter. Be it an immigrant who came on a Mayflower, be it a descendant of slaves who overcame a horrifying institution to claim their stake in the American dream. Every single American is a descendant of a go-getter. Of people that worked hard and came here to accomplish their own dreams, and more importantly, to give their children and grandchildren the chance to do everything they themselves could not. And I don't know the individual story of virtually any of you, and yet I can stand here with full confidence and tell you that I guarantee you that the vast majority of you are the children of grandchildren of people who had to give up their dreams and their hopes of their own youth, that could not accomplish what they wanted to be when they were our age because something happened. Their country was messed up, a political situation, whatever. And so what they did is they worked hard and they sacrificed every single day so you would have the chance to do the things they could not. In essence, they worked 2 jobs, they worked hard jobs, they gave up on their own dreams, but their obsession was that you would get the chance to do the things they could never do. That you would have the chance to go to college, that you would have a chance to be a professional. I remember growing up, my dad, who was a bartender, back then, nowadays it's different, but back then, if you wore a suit and tie, that meant you were successful. My dad was obsessed. I remember as a little kid, he would say to me, when you grow up, I want you to be able to wear a suit and tie to work. Nowadays, the really successful people wear t-shirts and jeans, but back then, that was a sign of success. And the people he interacted with that wore a shirt and tie and a suit, these were businessmen that were in from out of town. They were staying at a Miami Beach hotel. To him, that was a sign of success. And he was obsessed with the idea that his son and his daughters would get to work in these things. He was often worked banquets. And he never fully said it this way, but the way I would articulate it is he worked really hard at those banquets as a bartender so that one day his children could sit at the tables at a banquet like that, or even better, speak at one of these banquets. That's your story too. I mean, how many of you do not have the story of parents and grandparents that sacrificed and worked hard and made it the mission of their life for you to be able to do everything they themselves could not? And let me tell you something, that is a story that this country needs to be reminded of. That is something that this nation needs to fully embrace and understand. If anything defines our communities, irrespective of whether your parents are from Central America, South America, the Caribbean, irrespective of what Hispanic heritage from a particular country you may bring, what unifies us is really what defines America and makes it different from the rest of the world. And that is a story that can only be told by people like us right now, because we are the ones that are living it. That doesn't mean other Americans don't appreciate it, they do. But I think the further you're removed from it, the more likely sometimes people take it for granted. And I think even some of us take it for granted. I hope I never do. I told somebody today, and I'll close because there's so many other great speakers here that I have to share with you. Every morning I get in pretty early. It's still dark, although the sun comes up here a lot earlier than it does in Miami. But you get in pretty early in the morning, and I still walk across the front of the Capitol. And at that time, the sun is just barely coming up, and the dome is lit. And literally to this day, every day I walk by it, and maybe that changes when you're here a little bit longer, but I look at the Capitol dome and I say, man, I can't believe I work in that building. And then you fully understand it when we have these caucus lunches where all the senators are at, and you have these people who work in the wait staff that serve the lunch and the coffee, and I remind myself, I am literally just a few decades away from parents that were doing that. And that journey between the people that work at these events and the people who are in those events is not just our story, but it's the story of our country, and it's what we're fighting for, to still be a place where the son of a bartender and a maid can aspire to the U.S. Senate or to anything you aspire to be. That is what we're fighting for. At the end, that's at the core of everything that we are debating in this nation, whether we will continue to be that kind of country or become one like the ones our parents came here to get away from, economically or politically. And that's the biggest contribution I believe you can make in the years to come, no matter what road you choose. The bottom line is there is not a single career or opportunity that is not available to you. If you're willing to work hard for it, there is nothing, none of your dreams or your aspirations, assuming you have the talent, because I wanted to play in the NFL, and I would have had it not been for my lack of size, speed, and talent. So, assuming you have the ability to do it, there is not a single dream of yours that you cannot accomplish if you decide that's what you're going to do. And I fully expect to see many of you standing where I am 15, 20, 10 years from now. Thank you guys for this chance. I appreciate it.
Sure.